From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die, but at the riper should by time decease. His tender air might bear his memory, but thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feeds thy light's flame with self-substantial fuel, making a phenom where abundance lies. Thyself, thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel, thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only hurled to the gaudy spring within thine own bud, buryest thy content, and tender churl makest waste in guarding. Pity the world, or else his gluten be to eat the world's due by the grave and thee. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud lively, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed, or a small worth held. Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes, where an all-eating shame and thriftless praise, how much more praise deserve thy beauty's use, if thou couldst answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine, this word to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelst it cold. Look in thine glass until the face thou views, note the time that face should form another, whose a fresh repair if now thou not renewest, thou dost beguile the world and bless some mother. For where she so fair whose uneared womb disdain the tillage of thy husbandry? Or who is he so fond will be the tomb of his self-love to stop posterity? Thou art thy mother's glass, she in thee calls back the lovely April of her prime, so thou through windows of thine age shalt see, despite of wrinkles, this thy golden time. But if thou live remembered not to be, die single, and thy image dies with thee. Unthrifty loveliness, why dost thou spend upon thyself thy beauty's legacy? Nature's bequest gives nothing but doth lend, and being frank, she lends to those are free. And beauty is niggard, why dost thou abuse the bounteous largess, giving thee to give profitless usurer? Why dost thou use so great a sum of sums, yet canst not live? For having traffic with thyself alone, thou thyself thy sweet self doth deceive. Then how, when nature calls thee to be gone, what acceptable audit canst thou leave? Thy unused beauty must be tombed with thee, which used lives the executor to be. Those hours that with gentle work to frame the lovely gaze where every eye doth dwell, all play the tyrant to the very same, and that unfair which fairly doth excel, for never resting time leads summer on to hideous winter, and confounds him there, sap-checked with frost, and lusty leaves quite gone, beauty over-snowed, and barrenness everywhere. Then were not summer's desolation left, a liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass, beauty is effect, with beauty were bereft. Nor it, nor no remembrance what it was, but flowers dissolved, though they with winter meet, leaves, but their show, their substance, still lives as sweets. They let not winter's ragged hand deface, and thee thy summer ever thou be distilled. Make sweet some vile treasure, thou some place, where the beauty is a treasure, ever be itself killed. That use is not forbidden usury, which happy is those that pay the willing loan. That's for thyself to breed another thee, or 10 times happier, be it 10 for one, 10 times thyself, or happier than thou art. If 10 of thine 10 times refigure thee, then what could death do if thou shouldst depart, leaving thee living in posterity, but not self-willed, for thou art much too fair to be death's conquest, and make worms thine heir. Lo, in the orient when the gracious light lifts up his burning head, each under eye doth homage to his new appearing sight, serving with looks his sacred majesty, and having climbed the steep up heavenly hill, resembling strong youth in his middle age, yet mortal looks adore his beauty still, attending on his golden pilgrimage. But when from highmost pitch with weary car, like feeble age, he relieth from the day, the eyes for duties now converted are from his low track, and look another way, so thou thyself outgoing in thy noon unlocked undiest, unless thou get a son. Music to hear, why hearst thou music sadly? Sweets with sweets war not joy, delight and joy. Why lovest thou that which thou receivest not gladly, or hast received with pleasure thine annoy? the true concord of well-tuned sounds, by unions married, do offend thine ear. They do but sweetly chide thee, who confounds in singleness the parts that thou shouldst bear. Mark how one string, sweet husband, to another strikes each in each by mutual honoring, resembling siren, child, and happy mother, who all in one pleasing note do sing, whose speechless song, being many seeming one, sings this to thee, thou single wilt prove none. Is it for fear to wet a widow's eye that thou consumest thyself in single life? Ah, if thou issueless shalt have to die, the world will wail thee like a mateless wife. The world will be thy widow and still weep that thou no form of thee hast left behind, when every private widow well may weep by children's eyes her husband's shapen mind. Look what unthrift in the world doth spend, shifts but his place, for still the world enjoys it. But beauty's waste hath in the world an end, and kept unused, the user so destroys it. Now love toward others in that bosom sits, that on himself such murderous shame commits. For shame, deny that thou bear'st love to any, who for thyself art so improvident. Grant, if thou wilt, thou art beloved of many, but that thou none lovest is most evident. For thou art so possessed with murderous hate, that gainst thyself thou stickst not to conspire, seeking that beauteous roof to ruinate, which repair should be thy chief desire. O change thy thought, that I may change my mind. Shall hate be fairer lodged than gentle love, be at thy presence, is gracious and kind, or to thyself at least kind hearted prove. Make thee another self for love of me, that beauty still may live in thine or thee.